Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Marvel. Superman's Survival Guide. Chapter 61. When he came to the car, Link opened the back door directly. Roslyn was worried and looked up just before getting in the car. Suddenly, he found that there was another person inside, pointing a pistol at him. There was a silencer installed at the car entrance. Link pushed him from behind and pushed the man up directly. Link's strength was not something Roslyn could resist. Bang! The door closed. Link went around to the driver's seat to get in the car, and then started the car and left. William Roslyn still recognized Frank at this time. After all, one of his eyes was blinded by this guy. "Did you kill Russell?" Roslyn asked. "Yes, you also have this result," Frank said. "This is for my wife and 2 children. This is not arranged by me." Roslyn wanted to quibble, while thinking about how to escape. But Frank would never listen to him. He laughed hoarsely, and then said, "It doesn't matter. I wanted to kill you at the beginning, but I couldn't, so I chose to leave. But you obviously don't want to let me go. It's all my wishful thinking. I thought that leaving would be fine." Roslyn hurriedly said, "I'm just a small character. The people above think you are a hidden danger. I can't do anything. This was done by Russell." "Shut up," Frank suddenly roared. "Don't think about covering it up. Think about it carefully. You can say something later." William Roslyn is not good at fighting. Frank was once an elite Marine Corps. Although he is an agent, he uses his brain more. Today, he believed the other party so easily. He glanced at Link and could only see a side face. It was this guy who made him lose his composure. It was a psychological attack. He was a master. For a while, William Roslyn couldn't find a way to escape. Soon, the car came to a factory area and stopped in an abandoned factory building. The 3 got out of the car. William Roslyn was ready to talk, but Frank couldn't wait. He fired directly, hitting Roslyn's knees with 2 shots. The screams echoed in the empty factory. Frank came forward to search Roslyn's body, took out all the things and weapons on Roslyn, threw away the pistol, and started revenge with his fists. William Roslyn was still begging for mercy, shouting, "You can't afford to offend the people behind me, let me go, I can cover up Russell's affairs." Frank would never listen to him. The skin on the back of his hand had cracked, but he still didn't stop. In the end, he actually beat William Roslyn to death. Link walked over from behind and patted Frank on the shoulder. "He's dead." "Hoo-hoo." Frank panted and sat back. Link grabbed the back of his collar and then gently put him down. Frank lay on the ground. This time he didn't cry, but he seemed to be deflated, lying on the ground in a daze, his vision out of focus. Link took out a cigarette, took out one for himself, and then smoked it slowly. It was not until more than 10 minutes later that Frank got up and asked, "Will it cause you trouble?" "No trouble. Although it is difficult for us to deal with the people behind him, once they find out about S.H.I.E.L.D., they will retreat on their own." Link said indifferently, "Okay, you have vented enough. Go wash up. I'll get you a towel." Link turned and walked towards the car, then took a towel back and threw it to Frank, asking him to find water himself. Link searched around and got some gasoline back, then destroyed the body. The 2 left afterwards. Frank had his revenge. He would be calmer next, but his guilt would not be alleviated. Maybe time or a major event would change things. A few days later, Wilson Fisk invited Link and Jessica to a banquet again. Link was not sure what he was thinking, but he still took Jessica with him. Vanessa was now radiant. She hugged Jessica first, then Link, with Western etiquette. "Welcome to you," Vanessa said. "Wilson wants to hear your opinion, and he always attaches great importance to your opinion." This is a polite remark, but Link still said politely, "This is your own choice, I am just offering some suggestions." After they sat down, a waiter poured them wine. Fisk raised his glass and said, "The 2 charitable foundations have a pleasant cooperation, cheers for our cause." After the 4 people toasted, they all took a sip. Fisk went straight to the point and said, "Recently I am going to cooperate with the Rand Group, what do you think?" Link was stunned, and then asked, "Why did you suddenly think of cooperation?" "This matter is a long story." Fisk then described the specific situation. The Rand Group originally belonged to Wendell Rand, but 15 years ago, he and his wife and son disappeared on a private plane. After the disappearance, the search and rescue team did not find their crashed plane, so there was no way to declare them dead, so the shares of the Rand Group were entrusted. And now, Wendell Rand's son Danny Rand is back, has proved his identity, and has taken back his shares, which is more than 51% of the shares. Harold Meacham was a friend and partner of Wendell Rand, and also a major shareholder of the Rand Group. After Wendell Rand got into trouble, he was in charge of the Rand Group. He had a pair of children, son Ward Meacham and daughter Joy Meacham, who later grew up and joined the group. However, at this time, Harold Meacham was diagnosed with a terminal illness and later died. But this man was not dead, but was still alive, just living in secret and never showing up. But suddenly he appeared, and frantically searched for the Hand and the Society, and found Fisk here, but Fisk didn't know. Tell the other party truthfully that the Hand and the Society disappeared overnight, and the specific reason is unclear. You have seen Mrs. Gao. The Hand and the Society is her organization, and they used funds to support me before, but they disappeared overnight. Fisk's face was not very good. After all, this matter was too terrifying, and he didn't find any control in Hell's Kitchen, which scared him to think about it. I know some, but not all. Link said. Then what happened? Then Harold Meacham died again, this time for real. Fisk said, it seems that his son knew about his affairs, but his daughter didn't, and they had a quarrel in public because of this. But these are not important. What's important is that after Danny Rand found out, he also came to ask me about the Hand and the Society. Link understood that Danny Rand was the iron fist of Kunlun in this generation, but instead of guarding Kunlun honestly, he ran out and took back his family's group. If it weren't for his appearance, then he would attack Kunlun. Without the protection of Iron Fist, Kunlun would be very fragile and would be destroyed. Fortunately, the Hand and the Association were taken care of by S.H.I.E.L.D., but Danny Rand didn't know. As Iron Fist, he would naturally not let go of the Hand and the Association. Link thought for a while and asked, just tell him directly. This doesn't seem to have much to do with cooperation, right? It's really not big. After Danny Rand learned about my current career, he thought it was very good and was willing to cooperate with me. Fisk said, I'm thinking about whether to accept it, so I hope you listen to your opinion. Quote. Link did not hesitate and said directly, of course I accept it. Hell's Kitchen is a huge cake, and the current one is just getting started. However, discerning investors will definitely keep an eye on it, but you must firmly grasp the initiative. Capital is extremely greedy. The charity is your career, not theirs. If you lose the initiative, you will lose your career. So, the more like-minded people the better, like the Rand Group. I believe you have a good taste in people. You should trust Danny Rand's character, otherwise you wouldn't ask me. Fisk smiled and said, yes, he is not deeply involved in the world. He is a person with a conscience. He should not abandon charity just to make money. That's good. You can cooperate on a small scale first and absorb some funds, but the valuation must take into account the future. Link said, of course, I can also help you find investors, such as Stark Industries. Quote. Tony Stark is also keen on charity, both for tax exemption reasons and for his own reasons. In this way, if other people want to join in, they have to see if their weight is enough. This is good for you. Of course, it's just cooperation now, other things can be discussed later. The last sentence is Link's reminder not to try to establish a direct relationship, because Stark is not an easy person to get along with. If Fisk gets close to him, others may not pay attention to you. Vanessa said, I heard that Mr. Stark also likes to acquire art. I can talk to him about this. No, he doesn't care about this matter at all. You can communicate with Miss Pepper Bowes. Link said, in the future, Stark Industry must be controlled by Miss Bowes. This is very important. I understand, thank you. Vanessa understood, the woman behind a successful man. Fisk was very happy to receive Link's guidance and Rastak Industries' entry into the game. This was a huge gain. In fact, he has already felt the pressure, otherwise he would not invite Link. Asking for opinions is actually secondary, and the focus is Stark Industries. Don't Link understand? Of course I understand. After he joined S.H.I.E.L.D., he has been hanging out in New York's upper-class society. Although his circle is not very large, he speaks in such a vague way. This investment is beneficial to both Link and Stark Industries. On the one hand, Stark Industries has developed its own business, and Link can make money. In addition, the matchmaking will help improve his social status. He can no longer be a professional gambler because his status is different. His charitable foundation owns 10% of Stark Industries shares, which instantly changed his social status. Why would Fisk want to listen to his opinion? Just because of the changes in Link's identity and status. This is the path Fisk also wants to take, rather than what Link said. The underlying reasons need to be understood clearly, not that Link can really point the way. Of course, the plan will still work. Fisk's current identity and status have also changed a lot. But it's not enough. After all, it's just real estate, and it's not the biggest one, so it's naturally not enough to raise it too much. Maybe United Real Estate will become a giant in the future, but it is definitely not enough now. Link added, now that we have decided, we won't delay. I'll make a phone call first. Link actually called now to finalize the matter, which Fisk and Vanessa did not expect. In fact, Link just didn't want to cause too much trouble. Hey, Pepper. Lynn, it's really surprising that you called me. How is Jessica? Pepper Posey said in surprise. She is right next to me. I am calling because I have investment to discuss. Is Stark Industries' current focus going to shift to New York? Link asked. Yes, after the weapons department is closed, Tony is preparing to engage in new energy and high-tech industries. Pepper Posey said. The Industrial Expo is about to reopen. In addition, the Stark Tower has been completed, but Tony needs to replan the energy supply of the building. The building has many RU00260 departments. Using new energy can save a lot of electricity. That's good. Do you know United Construction Company? The reason why Link definitely thinks that Stark Industries will invest is because Stark Industries' focus has shifted. The weapons department is on the West Coast, and Tony Stark's home is there, but after the weapons department is closed, the development of Stark Industries needs to be readjusted. Is it the one who developed West Midtown? Pepper Potts really knew. She was much more reliable than Stark in terms of company management. Yes, the Rand Group here is preparing to invest recently. I know Mr. Wilson Fisk. I think Stark Industries can also invest. Link then introduced the charity project to solve the problem of poor people here. In this way, even if this place is developed, it will not cause serious social problems. In addition, drug addicts and criminals have been cleared here, and the gangs are temporarily honest. Once developed, the gangs will not be a problem. Whether it is the New York City government or investors, they don't want gangs to come out to make trouble. Although they can't eliminate them, they can reduce their strength. Pepper Potts said, "This is a good project. I think it's feasible." That's good. I still have billions of funds left, and I'm still ready to invest in it. Link had a lot of funds left last time, so naturally he wouldn't leave it alone. He didn't have money to invest at the beginning. Now that Fisk has done it, it's not bad for him to invest in it. This project is definitely profitable. After Link and Pepper Potts had a good talk, he hung up the phone and looked at Fisk and said, Stark Industries will contact your company soon. We will conduct an inspection and evaluation at that time. I will let the charity foundation come forward and invest in the name of the foundation. That's great. Fisk was very happy. Link had billions of cash in his hands, so he could develop several plots of land at once. With the Rand Group and Stark Industries, the subsequent development would be accelerated. Link reminded, this is your chance, Fisk, but whether you can grasp it depends on you. Many problems will arise and you need to solve them perfectly. Especially the number of construction workers. Don't affect the future balance for rapid development. Fisk thought about it, then nodded and said, I understand. I will let people make reasonable plans. It will not affect the future. The workers will have jobs. Link's reminder is not unreasonable. After all, if Fisk wants to move up now, he needs to prevent future troubles. If he covets the speed of construction and hires a large number of workers, what will happen once it is completed? Link added, the location near the dock is not an ideal choice for office buildings and high-end apartments, but you can consider apartments with lower prices. This is very important for your impression among the workers. Doesn't the Rand Group also have a dock? I believe they also have a lot of land. You can talk to them. Don't give up your long-term career for the sake of immediate benefits. This is a trade-off that you need to consider yourself. But the Rand Group and Stark Industries, even myself, are not eager for quick success. Understood. Let me toast you a glass to express my gratitude. Fisk raised his glass and toasted Link. The atmosphere of the subsequent dinner became relaxed. Link also asked some questions about the construction of schools and hospitals, and even asked Vanessa if there was a gallery here. After dinner, Link and Jessica said goodbye. Their car was outside, and McCall, the driver, was waiting here. With Link's identity change, it would not be appropriate for him to drive out to attend banquets and parties by himself in the future. Of course, he would not attend too many because it was unnecessary. He wants to enjoy life, not to work for money. The work of S.H.I.E.L.D. is interesting, and he can also learn about the movements of the Infinity Stones in the future. The Space Stone or the Spirit Stone is what he needs. Jessica is responsible for the specific matters. Link deposited most of the remaining funds into the account of the charity fund, which is named after Jessica. There is not much living funds left, but there are more than $100 million. However, the specific investment funds need to be evaluated. The United Construction Company can be said to be valuable now, or not so valuable. The most in his hands is land, and the funds for development are seriously insufficient. In fact, it is not much at the current price of Hell's Kitchen. If calculated in this way, then Fisk must have lost a lot. And if the price is raised, then this price is not easy to calculate, because it will naturally be valuable after development, but this requires investment, a large amount of investment. This matter needs to be negotiated in the end. The price cannot be decided on a whim. It must not be the lowest price or the highest price. Of course, bank loans are also possible, but that is more loss, so everyone likes to find angel investors for the first financing. Link gave full authority to Jessica. The specific investment amount and the number of shares he would get were not issues that could be resolved at one time. As for Danny Rand, Link had no intention of contacting him. Link now needed to reposition his identity. He could naturally participate in the card game. For example, the circle of pursuing technology could still be maintained, but the circle of money was not. It was not appropriate for him to contact those gamblers who pursued money now. He needed to move up, but his identity was not a professional gambler, but a shareholder of Stark Industries, and he was also talking about investment issues. Link's identity was different now. If he could not find the right position, it would affect his intelligence collection. He still had to mix in S.H.I.E.L.D. now. At this time, Tony Stark had a problem. This guy could not solve the problem of palladium poisoning. He could only use chlorophyll to synthesize it, but the effect was not good. The poisoning was getting deeper and deeper. He handed the position of CEO to Pepper Potts, who happened to be responsible for investing in the United Construction Company, and Black Widow also broke into Stark Industries at this time. Lynn, Mr. Stark has a problem. Phil Coulson came to Link. Link was stunned and asked, "What's the problem?" "Poisoning. The energy he used caused great damage to his body." Phil Coulson said, "And now it seems that he has not found a solution, and our researchers are also trying to find a solution." Link thought for a while and said, "Then let him not use energy. Isn't there shrapnel in his heart? With the technology of S.H.I.E.L.D., can't it be taken out? He won't listen to our advice, this is the biggest problem." Coulson sighed, "You should know his character. Character is one thing, but life is another." Link said, "The operation does have risks, but don't you have the skills of hand and meeting? You can tell him that at least it's safe, and the success rate of the operation is not low, right?" "The director wants you to go talk to him," Coulson said. "Okay." Link nodded. "When should I go?" "Wait a moment, I will notify you when the time comes." Coulson came in a hurry and left slowly. Link shook his head. These Marvel superheroes are all psychologically fragile. Maybe he can directly become a superhero psychiatrist. This is a joke. Link continues to find his own position. What profession should he pursue? Unexpectedly, he didn't want to do nothing. After all, what was he doing lying at home every day? The sun was always shining, but he didn't have to lie on the rooftop every day. He looked up at the transparent glass ceiling and saw the sunlight shining down, making him feel extremely comfortable. His own strength is still growing, and he has not reached his limit. Although superpowers appear quickly, the growth of strength has not stopped. Maybe you can learn it yourself. After all, he has a super brain. He can read books very quickly and has an excellent memory, which can be used to learn quickly. At this time, Link thought of learning. After all, just having strong strength can indeed guarantee his safety, but in terms of technology and magic, he is completely incompetent. Let's not think about magic for the time being. Ancient One may know him, or he may not know it now, but the use of magic here has a price, and Link is not very interested in it. In terms of technology, can he try it? Waiting for others to develop nanotechnology, why not do it himself? He did it as soon as he thought of it. He immediately went online to search for information. First, the hardware and programming of computers, starting from the basics. After all, the original owner studied psychology, and he also carried it forward. He is very strong in this aspect. However, in other aspects, especially technology, the original owner is not good at it, and he was not good at it before he crossed over, so now he needs to learn from the basics. Link looked up some books, then got up and went out by himself, looking for a large bookstore and started buying books. Regarding computer hardware and software, he has to start learning both aspects to try his super brain and see if it is really that powerful. It only takes him a few seconds to finish reading a book, but he still bought all of them. This time he drove the 5th generation Mustang Shelby GT500, and the back seat was piled with books. When he got home, there were finally some books on the bookshelf in the study. He arranged the order of reading and started reading from the first entry-level book. A breeze suddenly blew in the study. After a few seconds, he finished reading a whole book and then closed his eyes to recall the content. Link was a little surprised that he remembered everything and understood it. It was his first time to try this way of learning, and he couldn't stop. Facts have proved that humans all love to learn. The difference lies in whether they can get happiness. Just like Link now, he can learn any knowledge so easily, so he is happy. In just 10 minutes, Link finished reading all the books. It really felt like flying, but now he needs to verify whether he has mastered it so well. There was only one laptop at home, which was given by Shield. Link couldn't use it to try, and ordinary computers couldn't keep up with his reaction speed. This gave him a headache. He could only log on to the internet and then look for some public-related papers to read. This reading lasted until the evening. Link was completely immersed in it. Most of the content was correct. He could understand it, and he understood it very well. For some small mistakes, he also pointed them out and left messages in the message board. This was also to test whether he was really correct and whether there was a problem with his understanding. This kind of rapid learning pleasure made him unable to stop. "Hey, honey, what are you reading?" Jessica was very curious. She didn't see Link after she got home, but her boyfriend's coat and shoes were at the door, so he must be at home. So she looked around and saw him in the study, reading papers. Link looked up. He didn't even hear Jessica coming back. It seemed that he was too immersed in it. "I decided to study, first learn computer hardware and software, but I didn't expect to jump right in." Jessica asked curiously, "Why did you suddenly think of studying?" "Because there is nothing to do." Link spread his hands. "I could be a professional gambler before, but now my identity and status are different, so some things are not suitable to do now. After thinking for a long time, I suddenly realized that it would be better to study. I can read quickly and have an excellent memory. It shouldn't be difficult to study like this, just like I studied psychology. The result is really efficient. I didn't use this ability well in the past." Jessica was not surprised. Her boyfriend is the same as Superman in the comics, but Superman doesn't seem to have such a strong learning ability, right? She unconsciously brought it into the plot of the comics. Since she knew that Link was like Superman, she started reading Superman's comics. "Not bad, maybe you can surpass Tony Stark in the future." Jessica encouraged her boyfriend very face-savingly. Link laughed, pulled Jessica over, let her sit on his lap, and said, "This is very likely. I have actually considered our equipment problem a long time ago. Although we are not going to be exposed, some things are not under our control. Haven't you been reading comics recently? Superman's battle suit is very important, and although I am not afraid of bullets, you can't resist bullets. I also need to find an excuse for my bulletproof. A close-fitting battle suit is very important, but this is reality, not comics. We can't wear the battle suit inside. So, I have always wanted to have nanotechnology. Jessica's eyes lit up and said, "What a good idea, you are really a genius, so keep working hard." Bo, my Superman. Give Link a kiss, then get up to change clothes, and then go to cook. Link needs to read papers, read them very quickly, and reply to many authors of papers. Some people will read them seriously, while others will ignore them. He was enjoying this, and the investment negotiations were more than halfway through and were almost finalized. All parties were interested in making this happen, and charity was the main reason. Making money became a secondary factor. With such a consensus, the middle stock price was directly taken, and the market value of United Construction Company instantly soared to $50 billion. Among them, Rand Group invested $2.5 billion to hold 5% of the shares, Stark Group invested $5 billion to hold 10%, and Jessica Charity Foundation invested $2.5 billion to hold 5%. In fact, most of the land owned by United Construction Company was purchased with funds provided by the Hand and the Society in the past, and the cost was very huge. It's just that under the name of United Construction Company, it has now become Fisk's. If he develops it himself, it will take decades, but now he has obtained tens of billions of funds at once. In this way, there is no problem in developing at the same time. He also accepted Link's suggestion and put forward the idea in the board meeting. First of all, the land near the dock will be built with low-cost apartments, which will be rented or sold to ordinary workers. After all, the environment is not good near the dock. The shops here will be low-priced bars, convenience stores, barber shops, etc., which are not suitable for developing office buildings and high-end apartments. At the same time, there needs to be a public school here. At this time, Fisker is developing only one office building. At the edge of Hell's Kitchen, he can now add another high-end apartment and an office building, and at the same time replan and expand the acquired hospital. In order to ensure the medical resources here, the second nursing home can be built to try to receive more lonely elderly people. The board of directors agreed with this. While developing charity, it takes all aspects into consideration. This is a very good suggestion. After all investors are not aiming to make money in the short term. The Rand Group and the Stark Group will develop separately, but they are not for commercial use, but for the development of their own groups. The Rand Group is going to build a pharmaceutical tablet research and development laboratory, while the Stark Group is going to build a super factory, a fully automated super factory to produce electromagnetic reactors. After another half a month, a big news appeared. Tony Stark personally participated in the Moroccan racing competition. However, an accident occurred halfway and he was attacked by a man with an electric whip. After Link saw this news, he thought it was about to happen. Sure enough, within a few days, Link received a call. "Lynn, leave now," Coulson said hurriedly. "I'll wait for you at the airport." Link left immediately, but Jessica did not follow him. She had other things to do. Investment is not just about giving money. Link drove all the way to the military airport, parked the car here, and then got on a small business jet. Coulson was waiting for him on the plane. When he saw Link, he asked him to sit down and said, "Mr. Stark held a party yesterday. He was partying at the party in a battle armor. Colonel Rhodes went to stop him and finally put on a battle armor. The two fought each other, and finally Colonel Rhodes took the battle armor away." Link laughed and said, "Is Tony arranging his funeral? Give a battle armor to the military, but actually to Rhodes. It seems that his poisoning is even worse." Coulson nodded and said, "Your idea is similar to what the analyst said. The director will come forward in person this time, and of course you will be needed to persuade him. Even if he doesn't want to have surgery, he can't continue to use the battle armor." Link thought for a while and said, "He has a big psychological problem, especially he is too proud and conceited, which is his strength and weakness. Quote, "It is difficult to change, we can only start from another aspect, and this matter still needs Pepper's help. I will talk to them separately at that time." "Okay, you are an expert in psychology, you have the final say on this matter." Coulson then talked about Iron Man. "My armor has been modified, it's really good, but it's too heavy. But the director thinks this is good. If there is a place where it can be used, then heavy firepower weapons can be used. After all, Mr. Stark's Iron Man is flexible enough, and now Colonel Rhodes's is also relatively flexible, so it's best for me to match heavy firepower." Link feels very interesting, things are slowly changing, and his little butterfly has finally flapped its wings. Of course, he is not a little butterfly. If he really exposes his strength, it will be a hurricane. Unfortunately, Link is not willing to join S.H.I.E.L.D. for the infinite gems, not to be a superhero. That's great. At least you have mastered a certain amount of high-end combat power. Link said, maybe there will be room for you to play in the future. The two chatted and talked about life issues. Phil Coulson just met a female teacher who teaches cello, but he was too busy with work. Unable to take care of his love, Link had to remind Coulson that he still needed to be proactive in this regard, and work was not everything. After the plane landed, there was a car waiting for them. The two got in the car and drove all the way to Stark's home. At this time, his home was a mess. Nick Fury hadn't brought anyone back yet, but this place had been taken over by S.H.I.E.L.D. Coulson and Link were waiting for Stark's arrival here. Link searched around in the ruins of the bar and found a bottle of bourbon. It was plum-flavored. There was no glass, so he just took the bottle and drank it directly. Find a place to sit down, then took out the phone and called Pepper Potts directly. Hey, Pepper, Link greeted casually. Lynn, do you have any good projects to introduce this time? Pepper asked with a smile. The project introduced by Link this time was good. Although Wilson Fisk had many problems in the past, the cooperation is good now. Pepper visited the nursing home in person, especially the nursing home, and brought some gifts as a donation to Stark Industries. The nursing home was not just a perfunctory one, but it was really built very reasonably and covers a large area. There are medical rooms, physical therapy rooms, activity rooms, reading rooms, etc., which are very complete and well equipped. Because the hospital here was bought, the nursing home has doctors, nurses, physical therapists, etc. The rest are caregivers and handymen, all of whom are poor family members hired in Hell's Kitchen. The elderly here have no assets. No matter how much their assets are, they are all handed over to the nursing home, and everything in their future will be the responsibility of the nursing home until they die. Now it only accepts those in Hell's Kitchen, and the scope may be expanded in the future, which also involves the future sustainable development of real estate industry. If some elderly people have houses, they will be accepted by United Construction, and they will be planned, rented, sold or redeveloped according to the situation. These are all things in the future. The elderly here are treated equally, regardless of whether you have assets to the nursing home, the conditions here are the same. Pepper is very satisfied with the situation here, but he also asked if there is any supervision here. There is indeed, the law firm under the name of Jessica Charity Foundation, which provides legal aid and support to the elderly here free of charge. Pepper is very happy to send people to check the situation regularly and supervise everything here. It seems that Vanessa Charity Foundation and Jessica Charity Foundation are really doing something. In the future, Stark Charity Foundation will also join in and supervise here, so that it can be guaranteed to be foolproof. The next visit is the hospital. The hospital here is not big enough and the medical conditions are average, so it is necessary to expand the area and introduce equipment and personnel to make it a large hospital. After all, the future West Central City will also be home to many wealthy people, but it will also be open to the poor, so the plan is to divide the hospital into two. The hospital is divided into two. One half is specially built for the rich, and you can get the best services by paying money, while the other half is built for ordinary people, including the elderly in nursing homes. In this way, the rich's funds can subsidize some of the poor's medical care, and with the addition of medical insurance, the hospital can still make a profit. Link made some suggestions. After all, the medical system in the United States is really unflattering. It is horribly inefficient and extremely expensive. If you don't have money, you can only endure it. For example, having to wait in line for appendicitis surgery is really unimaginable. Poor people don't have much money, so they can train novice doctors well and train a large number of doctors who can do basic surgeries. This is Link's idea. After Pepper's visit, the subsequent expansion plan was naturally approved. The overall plan is to create more jobs, but it will not massively expand the number of construction workers and maintain a stable development progress. They are all developed on the edge of Hell's Kitchen, so the rental and sale prices after completion are guaranteed. Finally, equipment and funds were donated to the police station here, allowing them to expand their police force and patrol the building to improve public security conditions. We also need to support the development of the red light district and stabilize the gangs. The red light district should also be developed separately. One should be built near the pier because it is cheap. Where workers need entertainment, it is most suitable to build a red light district here, while high-end ones are built at a higher cost and are more luxurious for the rich. This aspect was handled by Fisker's assistant James Wesley. His ability was outstanding enough, and Fisker relied heavily on his help. This is why Pepper is happy. She is very satisfied with the investment project introduced by Link. No, Pepper, what I want to talk to you about now is Stark. Link said. Stark's situation is very bad now, he may be dying. What? Pepper felt bad. What happened? You know what's on his chest is using palladium, which is still radioactive. Link then introduced the situation. Now we need to persuade him, especially about the surgery. I think the only person who can persuade him now is you. Quote. Pepper didn't know what to say. When she came to her senses, she immediately said, I'll go back right away. Where is Tony? He's going back home soon, just come here. After Link finished speaking, the person on the other end hung up the phone. Now it seemed that Pepper was really anxious. Stark came back and saw Link. Hey, Lynn, you're here too. You don't think I have a mental problem, do you? Of course there is a problem. Link said with a smile, and the problem is huge. Let Mr. Director talk to you first. I'll stay here for a few days and we'll have time to talk. Okay. Stark had no choice but to sit down and listen to Nick Fury introducing Stark's father. Howard Stark was once one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D., which made Stark very surprised. After receiving his father's belongings, Nick Fury said goodbye and left. Coulson also left, leaving the place in charge of Link. Lynn, you won't imprison me, will you? Stark asked. Of course not, but you'd better take a look at your father's relics. Besides, Pepper is coming back and she knows about you. Link said with a smile on his face. Oh no, Stark felt his head grow bigger instantly. Did you tell her? Yes, you need surgery now to restore the hole in your chest. No matter whether you can discover new elements or not, at least you can't die, right? Link said. You haven't married Pepper yet. There should be something between you. A child. A little Stark, maybe a daughter. Stark originally wanted to complain, but Link's words shut him up. The words of having a daughter made his heart waver. Hello, daughter. Stark took the things and turned around and went to the basement. Link also walked down with the wine, gave Stark the wine, and then stayed and ran around to read. An old-fashioned film reel is playing. Both the Starks and his son were smart people. Tony Stark understood the clues left by Howard Stark. Lynn, what do you think it could be? According to your father, the technology at that time could not be realized. I guess it was a new element, which was in that model. Link said directly. If you can realize it, then maybe your problem can be solved. Correct. Tony Stark stood up. I want to go out now. I think you should wait for Pepper. She should be back soon. You two need to talk. Link said, I'm going to get your things back for you now. You can make a call first. Or maybe Pepper will fight. She is the CEO now. Oh my God. Stark slapped his forehead. Tony. Pepper's voice came at this time. She stepped on high heels and hurried to the basement. Link said hello and left. He drove S.H.I.E.L.D.'s car and set off directly to pick up the model for Stark. Link came to Stark Industries headquarters. The largest part here was the weapons department, but now that it has been closed, it seems a lot deserted. The subsequent transformation will definitely be carried out, but no action has been taken yet. Link went directly to Pepper Potts' office. She is now the CEO. A lot of things in the office were sorted out, and it was obvious that they were not yet finished. Link looked at the model of Stark Industries. He took out a micro camera, aimed at the model and started taking pictures, and took pictures of all the details. Then he disassembled it and carried it down piece by piece. Link came here for his own purpose, that is, the new elements hidden on the model. He was not sure whether they were useful, but this was a good thing, so Link naturally wanted to keep it. After installing the model, he drove away and returned to Stark's home. Link didn't know how he talked with Pepper, and he didn't mean to participate. In fact, He didn't intend to persuade Tony Stark. Everything was just a cover-up. Stark didn't listen to advice at all. Even using psychology was useless. Link knew this very well. He came here and then informed Pepper about Stark's affairs. His purpose was to let Pepper hold Stark back, and he helped to get the model. Link was well aware of Stark's arrogance. He didn't worry at all about what others might notice, and Stark wouldn't take it seriously. "Hey, Tony, Pepper." When Link came to the basement, he saw the two of them biting each other, and he had to remind them. "Hey, Lynn." Pepper was a little shy, but Stark didn't mean to be embarrassed at all. "Lynn, did you get the things?" Stark asked. Link nodded and said, "The things are in the living room upstairs. I won't bother you. I believe you can solve the problem." "I'll go back first," Pepper said. "It's just right. I'm going to New York too. I still have to deal with the expo." Link said, "Then I'll enjoy Stark Industries' plane." "Welcome." Pepper turned back and gave Stark a kiss, then whispered, "You promised me that you would solve the problem, otherwise you have to have surgery." "Don't worry, I've found a way," Stark said confidently. Link took Stark Industries' plane back to New York, went to the military base to pick up his car, and then went back home. He would see what was going to happen next on TV, and he had no intention of taking action. Coulson probably went to New Mexico at this time to deal with a hammer problem. Link had a completely nonchalant attitude. Of course, S.H.I.E.L.D. did not give him any tasks. Link knew very well that he was not on Nick Fury's trust list. Therefore, Nick Fury would not let him be responsible for many things, and Link was willing to do so. After all, he did not really want to work for S.H.I.E.L.D. Sure enough, what was supposed to happen still happened. Ivan Vanko's vengeful spirit was still there. Stark arrived in time and solved the problem smoothly. As for the New Mexico incident, Link did not get any news. They were all videos posted by some people before, about the hammer that no one could pick up. The news after that should have been blocked. After all, it involved aliens, and S.H.I.E.L.D. would not allow the news to spread. These were two major events, but Link did not participate in them at all. He shorted Hammer Industries one step ahead, and made a lot of money again. The funds used this time were not much. Most of the funds that had been deposited into the charity foundation before were invested in United Construction Company. With more than $1 billion left, Link still used financial leverage. After shorting Hammer Industries, the charity fund once again had billions of funds. The key is that the value of Hammer Industries itself is not high. This time he took the lion's share. Many people had previously received news that Justin Hammer had basically reached a cooperation with the military, and they all went long in advance. This made Link earn billions of US dollars, but Link had no interest in Hammer Industries. He made money and ran away, preparing for the next investment. He was the investment director of the charity fund. Link was going to look at other stocks. After all, Stark Industries stocks were not available now, and everyone was holding them in their hands because there was still potential for growth. Stark himself was a living signboard. There were many large companies on the market, some of which Link had heard of in his previous life, and some of which he had not heard of. Of course, there were also some companies in the Marvel Universe that existed here. Like Pym Company and Osborne Group, they all existed. Link was mainly focusing on these because he was familiar with them. Link was not sure which universe this was, and he could not judge it, but some things would not change. The stock crash of Stark Industries happened before, so Link made a lot of money and directly improved his status and position. Now he is studying while keeping an eye on these familiar groups and companies, preparing to buy another batch of stocks. The chairman and CEO of the Osborne Group is still Norman Osborn. Link checked the information and found that the biological department under it has invested a lot, but there is no specific name of the person in charge. Link logged into the S.H.I.E.L.D. database and found the name of Richard Parker, but this man stole the technical information of the Osborne Group and prepared to flee abroad with his wife. As a result, the plane he was riding crashed, and both the couple died. Of course, the technical information he carried was gone. They have a son, Peter Parker, who was adopted by his uncle Ben Parker. Link is not concerned about Spider-Man, but about the Osborne Group. Looking at its investment in the biological department, you can see that the Osborne family still has inherited genetic diseases. They have invested a lot in this. Link estimates that the Osborn group still has cooperation with the military on the cooperation of super soldier serum. But it was not successful. If Norman Osborn was injected with this serum, he would probably still become the Green Goblin. The Osborn group could do something about it. The Osborn group has developed in many areas, such as medicine, electricity, military industry, etc., which is a diversified development. However, Link was not willing to manage such a group. He could be a researcher, which required his super brain to work hard. He searched for books on biology, medicine, and chemistry on the internet, and then sorted them from basic to advanced, and then made a purchase list. He planned to learn more and see how much room his super brain could play. The only pity was that he did not have a Kryptonian spaceship. Link purchased a large number of books and finished reading and memorizing them in an hour and a half. It was too fast. Super speed and super brain are perfectly combined. Looking at the books on the bookshelf, he can tell everyone loudly that he has really read them. However, these are not enough. More knowledge is needed. The best is naturally papers, but these papers are all on the internet. Link can only read slowly. Once the speed is too fast, the notebook will be stuck. It would be great if he had Jarvis. Using holographic projection as a screen, fast reading is naturally no problem at all. Unfortunately, he can't handle this now. It's not a software problem. He now feels that he can write a set of intelligent programs. It may not be as good as Jarvis, but it is no problem to handle daily life. What he lacks is hardware. A powerful artificial intelligence needs an equally powerful supercomputer as the main body. Link now has no place to build a supercomputer. Other aspects are easy to say, but cooling is the biggest problem. He still needs more knowledge reserves, so he is not in a hurry now. Just learn slowly. The next day, Phil Coulson sent Link a video and then called him. It turned out that Coulson introduced Asgard to him. Just to let Link know the situation, there are many aliens facing the Earth, and the aliens are very powerful, and it is difficult for ordinary weapons to harm them. Coulson did not put on the armor when he was in New Mexico, because the armor was not there, and when the destroyer appeared, there was no time to transport it. Later, it was estimated that Iron Overlord was not enough to cause damage to alien weapons, especially since Thor could control lightning, which was even more worrying. Coulson told Link that he would go on a secret mission and would no longer be responsible for communicating with Link, and asked Link to go to the New York branch tomorrow. Link hung up the phone and didn't think too much. He knew all this and didn't care. He needed time now. The plot of Avengers 1 is probably still a year or two away, right? Going to the New York branch really interested him. After seeing Jessica off the next day, he drove off and came to the New York branch. Maria Hill is here. Lynn, I asked you to come because I have a task for you. What mission? Link asked. You'll find out later. Maria Hill took Link to a medical room. Through the transparent glass, she saw that most of the people inside were wearing protective clothing, and they were surrounding one person. Only then did Link realize that this was Captain America Steve Rogers. Was he just brought back? Steve Rogers, Captain America. Maria Hill said. He we just discovered needs to be extremely careful when thawing him. Why are you asking me to look at him? Link asked. After all, he has been sleeping for decades. We are worried that he cannot accept the reality, so we are ready to let him adapt slowly. Maria Hill said, follow me. Soon, they came to an open place. There was a huge space, and workers were building a room with background boards around it. This is a ward built in the style of World War II. We are going to revive him here and let them slowly accept the reality. Link smiled and said, he is a warrior, and he often goes deep behind enemy lines. Do you think his vigilance will be low? I reckon he'll figure it out soon. No, we have made very strict arrangements, but just in case, I hope you will be there when he wakes up. Maria Hill said. Yes, but there is a problem. He is a super soldier. I may not be able to stop him without hurting him. Link vaccinated the opponent in advance. Don't worry, we have a lot of people. After Maria Hill said that, she turned and left, and Link followed her. I will notify you in a few days. You can go back now. Okay, I'll wait for your call. Link left. Go home and continue studying. The thawing process will probably not be too short. After all, it will take a lot of time to thaw without injury. Nick Fury is probably very excited now. Finding Captain America and having a superhero is a huge step forward for his Avengers plan. Like Hawkeye, Black Widow, and even Link, the god of death, Captain America is more valuable and even more trustworthy. Link read the papers at home, constantly accumulating his knowledge reserves, and at the same time using the papers to test his knowledge reserves. This is a good idea. There are many arguments in the paper. On the one hand, Link can verify whether it is true and effective, and on the other hand, he can broaden his own thinking. What he studied was all from books, but the real knowledge and experience were in the hands of professors. He read papers to enrich his knowledge reserve and to exercise his flexible thinking ability. Modern science is divided into subdivisions, and Link is preparing to study major subjects, such as physics, chemistry, biology, etc. The most important thing is mathematics. To master all the knowledge of major subjects, there is a connection between subjects. Mathematics is the foundation and must be mastered. Go ahead and buy the books, then read them quickly, then read the papers. When the paper fails to achieve results, Link will go to the university to search for more knowledge. The bookshelf in the study room is already full of books. Link has read them all, and he feels that he needs a library. Now, he finally has the consciousness of some wealthy people and directly purchased a library in Hell's Kitchen and renovated it to increase the space for collecting books. He plans to collect a large number of books. In this place in Manhattan, where every inch of land is at a premium, even Hell's Kitchen is beginning to change. Some libraries seem out of date because they cannot create much value. It is better to sell them and build them into high-rise buildings. Some libraries have already been sold. After Link bought a library, he began to collect various books. However, the books he collected had nothing to do with humanities. They were all scientific, including some scientific journals. Generally, library buildings are relatively large, with high shelves on each floor, but now there are 2 floors on 1 floor. Although it is a bit depressing, the book collection can be more than doubled. Link hired a lot of employees to classify and register all books. Subsequent books purchased would avoid existing books in the collection. Lynn, come to the branch immediately. Maria Hill called. Link immediately left the library. Although it was still being renovated, it did not affect his reading. He had been reading here during the day recently. He drove directly to the police station, and someone took him to the small theater, which was renovated for Steve Rogers. Link jokingly called it the small theater. Nick Fury was also there, but he was in the monitoring room. Lynn, keep quiet and go in. The doctors estimate that the captain will wake up in half an hour. You are just in case. Understood. Link nodded, and then walked in quietly. Nick Fury led people to watch in the monitoring room. The pinhole camera was installed very secretly. Everyone was waiting for Captain America to wake up. After a while, Steve Rogers woke up. He looked at the surrounding environment in confusion. The white and clean ward, the open window with gauze curtains, and the wind blew in from outside. There was a hint of noise outside, and the radio was playing a baseball game. Link's super hearing allowed him to hear the voices inside clearly, as if everything was flawless. A female agent wearing a World War II military uniform pushed the door and walked in. As expected, an accident occurred. The baseball game was not broadcast correctly. Steve Rogers watched the game live. Is it reasonable for S.H.I.E.L.D. to make such a mistake? Boom, the female agent pressed the alarm, and the armed agents entered, but then they were thrown out, the backdrop wall broke, and Steve Rogers rushed out. Link stood at the door, watching Captain America rushing over, and Link said, "Do you want to see Peggy Carter?" Quote. Captain America stopped, but Link never intended to take action. A problem that can be solved with a name, there is no need to take action, right? And on the surface, he should not be Captain America's opponent, so he simply used his mouth. Who are you? Steve Rogers remained alert. Strategic Scientific Corps. Link said, "This is our predecessor. Its founders are Colonel Chester Phillips, Ms. Peggy Carter, and Mr. Howard Stark. Now we are called S.H.I.E.L.D., and the reason we created such a small theater is because we are worried that you can't accept reality." What reality? Steve Rogers asked. Captain, you have been sleeping for 70 years, in a frozen state. Link gave a direct answer. Of course, I can take you out now to see what New York looks like now. Do you remember Times Square? Of course, my memory is still in the past, if what you said is true. Steve Rogers agreed. Please. Link pushed open the door, and the people outside were a little nervous. Link waved his hand to let them go. Nick Fury did not bring anyone to rush over. He handed the problem to Link to deal with. After all, Link is good at psychology. The decoration in the branch building surprised Captain America. He looked back and forth until he came to the gate. Link opened the door and the two walked out. The hustle and bustle came in an instant. The surrounding high-rise buildings and the colors on the electronic billboards clearly told Steve Rogers that everything was different. Link led the way. Times Square was not far away, and it only took a few minutes to walk there. Standing here, Steve Rosty turned 360 degrees and accepted everything completely. He said a little frustratedly, "I missed a date." Link patted him on the shoulder and said, "Take your time. People always have to move forward." Link estimated that Steve Rogers had no chance to travel through time and space this time. Because of his appearance, Thanos would definitely not see the 6 infinite gems. "I just don't know what Thanos will do. This is unknown. Whether he wants to fight Thanos is a question. Go back, our director is waiting for you. You need a place to stay and learn something." Link said, "But I believe it's not a big problem. You have enough time now." "Okay." Steve Rogers is now very confused. "By the way, I don't know your name yet." Lin. "I'm Asian, you can call me Lin. I'm good at psychology, which is a branch of medicine that treats human mental illnesses." Link said, "I'm also good at fighting, and I'm a level 6 agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. But it's a special recruitment, you will slowly understand this later." The two of them went back to the branch, and saw Nick Fury as soon as they entered. Link introduced them. Nick Fury said, "Welcome back, Captain." "Thank you, I'll trouble you with things in the future." Steve Rogers said, "This is what we should do. You have made great sacrifices, and this country owes you." Nick Fury said, "Any ideas? For example, where to live?" "Queens." Steve Rogers didn't know the current situation. Link said, "Don't go to the place where you lived in the past. You should live in a luxury apartment in Manhattan and use modern household appliances. The fastest way to accept reality is to integrate into it, so that you can adapt quickly." Maria Hill frowned and said, "Isn't it too simple and rough?" "No, the captain is not a baby, and he needs to be carefully cared for in life." Link shook his head. The reason why Captain America in the play has difficulty adapting to the current life is mainly because the pace is too slow. A soldier who can drive a bomber to the polar regions for forced landing, a soldier who is ready to die, his psychological quality is completely above that of ordinary people. Now it's a question of changing living habits. We can't do it slowly, we can just replace it with a new lifestyle. In fact, it's just a change in food, clothing, housing and transportation. There are not many other problems. Ordinary people are only exposed to home appliances and computers, and it's not difficult to learn in this area. It's better to have training with modern equipment, so that he can adapt faster. After all, he is a soldier." Nick Fury nodded, and then asked, "Captain, what do you think?" "I don't know anything now, but I'm willing to try it. I have to live." Steve Rogers didn't have any idea. He was completely unfamiliar with this world now. Nick Fury finally said, "Okay, then arrange it this way. Arrange a high-end apartment for the captain immediately. The calm time will not be too long, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years. Link now has to read hundreds of books every day. The library has been repaired and expanded, and then a large number of books will be purchased to enrich it. This library is open to the public free of charge. Children from Hell's Kitchen can come and read whatever they want, but of course it doesn't matter if they don't want to. Charity is not about feeding food into your mouth. The public security has improved a lot now. If these children are still unwilling to study, then they will probably leave here in the future, because Hell's Kitchen is slowly disappearing. Just like nursing homes, low-rent apartments, etc., they will disappear at a certain time. After all, there are fewer and fewer poor people living here. With development, this place will also be worth every inch of land. The poor will slowly leave and become a place for the rich. This is the case in Manhattan. Of course, some workers will stay. After all, the environment near the dock is not good, and they can live there. This process may take a longer time. This is considered to be kind. Link has foreseen this and he will not care too much. Link is now ready to intervene in the Osborn group. With the change of his identity, he began to realize the problem, that is, in the United States, status and identity are very important. It is not enough to be just a shareholder of Stark Industries. If he can become the chairman of the Osborn group, that is almost the same. It's just that his current capital is not enough to acquire the Osborn group. If there is a problem within the Osborn group, it would be best if the stock price plummets. Link is constantly revising his plan. In less than 2 years, he has revised his plan several times because his identity and social status are constantly changing. From the beginning of a policeman to the current billionaire, he has moved too fast and is not very adaptable. At the beginning, he bought a house, a car, and bought famous brands for Jessica. Now he has realized some problems. Those billionaires don't buy luxury goods. In fact, the middle class buys the most luxury goods. Link is a nouveau riche, but he is a powerful nouveau riche. In the future, he will join the Avengers and strive to get 1 or 2 infinite gems. In this process, he needs to hide his true strength. At most, he is a stronger agent. Of course, he also needs a higher social status so that the official can't take his identity at will. He just realized this not long ago. Before, he studied to develop a nano suit for himself. After all, the strength cannot be exposed, but the suit must be there. He and Jessica both need nano suits made of vibranium to facilitate self-protection and cover for the two, especially the vibranium has the characteristic of absorbing kinetic energy. Link is still hesitant about whether S.H.I.E.L.D. should disappear, but it is enough to improve his status, make free choices, and not be influenced by the authorities. Now Link's thinking is slowly changing. This has nothing to do with the super brain. This is about politics, which he didn't understand very well. What inspired him was the Hammer Group. Although Justin Hammer was arrested and the stock price of the Hammer Group plummeted, it still did not fall down. The military still needs it to exist. Link was inspired here, and then checked Pym Company and Osborn Group. Link chose Osborn Group. He was sure to treat Norman Osborn and his son. If the treatment is good, then Link will have a competent CEO. Of course, the premise is that he is willing to cooperate with himself. In addition, Link is going to try whether Richard Parker left any information for his son. In The Amazing Spider-Man, the Roosevelt Secret Station was mentioned. Link was going to go there to take a look. He searched the internet and bought a special coin on the internet, which was used by the secret station. Richard Parker used his own genetically modified experimental spiders, the key to which lies in an attenuation formula, but there may be more detailed information left there. Link wants to see if it is useful to him. Of course, the premise is that it exists. "Why did you think of me today?" Frank asked. "I need your help, let's go." He called Frank to get in the car, and after getting in the car, he asked, "Are you used to the work?" "It's okay. After all, it's just a bodyguard, and your girlfriend doesn't go to messy places, the work is very easy." Frank said, "It's just too easy." Hee. Many people who want to do this don't have the opportunity, you can practice more in normal times. Link said, "That driver is not simple, do you know?" Frank suddenly said, "I know, I have checked his information, and now it is a fake death and escape, there will be no problem." Link did not hide it. To be precise, he trusted Frank more. After all, the two did a lot of things together. Frank nodded and said, "It's really peaceful. He reads books every day. He said he wants to finish 100 books. This is his wife's last wish. It can be seen that he misses his wife very much. Since you know it, it's good. But you are very good at choosing people." Link smiled and said, "Of course I have to consider Jessica's safety carefully. After all, I am a billionaire now. It is inevitable that someone will have ideas about her." But what about your safety?" Frank asked. "Although you are an agent and you are good at it, you still have to be careful. People in the underground world will not cause trouble to me. They know how powerful I am. My title of the God of Death was given to me by them." While driving, Link described the things between himself and the high table. "More than 300 lives are enough to scare everyone. Even some of them can hardly get my information because no one dares to tell him." Frank took a breath and asked, "How did you do it?" A remote-controlled bomb exploded on the sand dunes, directly knocking down the helicopter, and then the sky was full of yellow sand. Link said, then I approached and shot one by one. My shooting skills are very accurate, and so are the throwing knives. I have seen the throwing knives before, and they are very fast. Frank has seen the throwing knives at Billy Russell's home, but he has never seen the shooting skills. But just think about it, it is unimaginable that all 300 people were solved in a short time, and the actions must be fast and accurate. You know, continuous shooting has recoil and consumes physical strength, especially in the desert. Soon, they came to a subway entrance. After getting off the train, the two entered the subway station, but they did not come to take the subway. They walked to the edge and jumped down by themselves, and walked along the subway line. Not far away, they saw a closed fork in the road. Frank asked curiously, "Is there a fork in the road here? Haven't you heard of Roosevelt's secret station?" Link then bent down, crawled in from the opening below, and then climbed onto the platform. It was indeed Roosevelt Station. There is only one coin slot here. He took out the coin he bought and put it in. Frank looked around curiously and said, "What are we waiting for?" As soon as he finished speaking, there was a roar. Link turned around and looked behind. The middle of the track cracked, and then a carriage rose. "Oh my God!" Frank exclaimed, "It's unbelievable that there is such a thing here." Link said, "That's why it's hidden. Let's go up and take a look." After the carriage stopped, the door was open. Link walked up directly. There were a lot of information and a computer here. After checking it out, he confirmed that this was something left by Richard Parker. Moreover, it was a secret of his research. Link did not watch the video left by Richard Parker. He took the information himself and left the video to Spider-Man. Regardless of whether he could find it or not, he at least left him something. Link did not have any psychological burden, because he left the most precious video to Spider-Man. Frank actually came here to be a porter. The two of them needed to take all the things out at once to avoid having to make another trip. Link sorted out the information and packed it into 2 boxes, then made sure nothing was left out before leaving. Chapter 71. "So, I'm here to be a porter?" Frank asked helplessly. "Hey, buddy, this is a secret operation, I can only find you." Link patted Frank on the shoulder. "Send your things home first, and then I'll buy you a drink." "Okay." Frank knew that this was because Link trusted him, and he did not ask what it was. After all, Link was an agent, and it was in line with his profession to deal with mysterious things. The two returned to Link's home. Link put his things in the study and came out with a bottle of good wine. The two went up to the rooftop, lay down on the deck chair on the rooftop, smoked cigars and drank wine, chatting about Frank's current life. Link took this opportunity to provide Frank with psychological therapy. After Frank left, Link began to read the technical information left by Richard Parker. This was complete research and development information, and Link could see it clearly. However, if you want to cure Norman Osborn, you need to recultivate new spiders, which takes time. Link must get the opponent's blood as soon as possible now. Link was not in a hurry, but used his brain to think of another way to treat Norman Osborn. He is not willing to let the other party have strong power. That would be difficult to control and would require him to reveal his strength. This is something Link is not willing to do. It would be best to treat Norman Osborn so that he could still be an ordinary person and just treat his genetic disease. Link has enough knowledge, and coupled with Richard Parker's information, he is very confident in developing a new data plan. Now that he does not have a laboratory on hand, he can only rent one. I checked online and found that such laboratories can only be found in universities. Generally, group companies and private laboratories have their own projects. Of course, universities also have them, but they have many laboratories and some laboratories can be rented out. He directly contacted a university in New York, which could provide some experimental materials and mice for experiments. Link could go there during the day, but had to leave at night. There are other laboratories here. Link is an outsider and must not stay at night to prevent him from stealing data from other laboratories. Link didn't mind this, he just needed to do some experiments. Although the rent was very high, Link was not short of money now. He was immersed in experiments, searching for patients with genetic diseases in some hospitals, extracting their genes for research, and soon came up with the latest treatment plan. Treatment is carried out by modifying the patient's genes. This is an improved plan based on the research of Richard Parker. It only took a month, and Link finally realized the power of the super brain. It would be a waste if Superman didn't use it, but he would make good use of it. Frank, come with me today. At almost 9 o'clock in the morning, Link and Jessica came to the underground parking lot together, and Link called Frank. "Oh, you paid me a salary as a bodyguard. Do you want to work as a porter now?" Frank asked with a smile. "Okay, the bodyguard's salary is gone today, and the porter's salary will be paid every day." Link joked. "Forget it, just pretend I didn't say anything." Frank was embarrassed, and then got into Link's car. The Rolls-Royce started first, McCall drove Jessica to work, and then Link drove off. "You have been following me these past few days, and we are going to keep an eye on people," Link said. "Norman Osborn." "Huh," Frank was stunned. "A secret agent mission?" "No, it's my personal matter. I'm going to take control of the Osborn group, and I need to start with Norman Osborn," Link said. Frank looked at Link in surprise and asked, "You want to kidnap him?" Link rolled his eyes and said, "The Osborn family has a genetic disease, and I have a treatment method. I have already experimented with it and treated several people. This kind of case is very rare. There is no specific medicine now, but my treatment method is very effective and can be cured." Frank suddenly understood and said, "This is feasible." Link said, "Treating him is naturally conditional. The current situation of Osborn Group is not good, and his position as CEO is not stable. So I asked him to cooperate and find a way to make the Osborn Group's stock price plummet. As far as I know, the military should cancel cooperation with them. The Osborn Group also has a lot of problems, so the stock price is easy to fall, and then I will go short. In the end, I will buy at the bottom and cooperate with Norman Osborn. I will occupy more than 51% of the shares, and Norman Osborn will continue to be his CEO." Frank asked curiously, "You like making money so much, why are you still an agent?" "Who told you that I like making money?" Link drove steadily and responded, "I'm not doing it for making money, but for status. Look at Tony Stark. Everyone wants his iron armor, but does anyone dare to steal it? Even national power is not enough. What I want is this identity, and the Osborn Group's diversified investments are very suitable for me in this aspect. Once the Osborn Group's market value exceeds 200 billion, then I will have the same identity as Tony Stark, do you understand?" Oh, Frank understood this time. What Link cared about was not money, but identity and status. So that he can do whatever he wants most of the time without being constrained by the government, Link must have his own secrets, which Frank can clearly feel. I don't know what they are, but Link's rise is too fast, which is really incredible, and he is not doing business, but mainly playing with finance. There is no capital to interfere in this regard, and Link sees the opportunity to buy shares of Stark Industries, which is the key. I understand, so what should we do now? Frank said. Keep an eye on him, observe the security forces around him, and after understanding clearly, we will sneak into Osborn Manor at night. Link said his plan, I need to get his genetic sample secretly. At the same time, make a deal with him to ensure that he will not regret it, and you can treat his son first instead of treating him first. The genetic disease of the Osborn family is hereditary, and his son also has this disease. Frank nodded slightly and said, This is easy, we can go in tomorrow night. The two confirmed the plan and then came to the Osborn Group building to observe outside. Norman Osborn is a workaholic, or he is racing against time, especially after Richard Parker escaped. To be honest, Link looked down on Richard Parker. This person has a problem with his character. He joined the Osborn Group with his friend Dr. Kurt Connors to be responsible for the cross-species gene transplantation project, especially Kurt Connors for the rebirth of his own broken arm. The Osborn Group provided money and equipment, while Kurt Connors provided the effort, and there was also investment from the military. Richard Parker succeeded in the research and development, but ended up using his own genes to complete the research, which others could not use at all, and then he ran away with the results. He cheated the Osborn Group and Dr. Kurt Connors, and finally the Osborn Group lost the military's research and development funds. Norman Osborn had no choice. On the one hand, it was a genetic disease, and on the other hand, the board of directors excluded him. He had no choice but to use the unfinished enhanced serum himself. Thus, the Green Goblin was born. Peter Parker inherited his father's legacy and became Spider-Man, and finally killed the Green Goblin and later Harry Osborn. The Parkers and their sons were the natural nemesis of the Osborns. No matter how you look at it, Richard Parker is unreasonable. His reason was that the Osborn group wanted to sell the research results, which sounded unreliable. The purchasing power of the US military alone was enough for the Osborn group to make a lot of money, especially in terms of stock prices. How much could it be sold secretly? This was a long-term business, and the Osborn group didn't even know that he had successfully developed it, so how could it be sold? This fundamentally made no sense at all. Richard Parker's identity was not simple, and he was going abroad with technical information, which was even more strange. The Osborn group didn't know that he had succeeded, but he was intercepted on the plane. Was the news leaked? If you think about it carefully, you can conclude that Richard Parker is not a good person. Link took his technical information and left a video for his son. This is kind, otherwise he would have smashed it all. The two monitored for a day, and after Norman Osborn left the group building, they followed all the way to Osborn Manor. Then they observed outside and looked for various security systems. Link used X-ray vision to observe all the lines, and he had a complete security deployment in mind. The two then left and had a meal outside, then Link sent Frank home before returning to his apartment. Jessica saw Link coming back, stepped forward to help him take off his coat, and asked, "What are you busy with?" "Busy making money." Link then told his thoughts, wanting to control the Osborn group and other things, including the reasons. After listening, Jessica asked puzzledly, "Why do you do this? Aren't you an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Link said, "S.H.I.E.L.D. is not so stable. I feel there are some problems inside, just like I collected a lot of intelligence before, and the funds involved are huge. But the whereabouts of these funds are not clear, and S.H.I.E.L.D. is not so quiet inside. In addition, you know our specialness, so we must have enough identity and social status, and in this country, money means everything. Especially for large groups. After taking over the Osborn group, I will develop something, you know my brain is very strong." Quote. Jessica said with some concern, "Will you have trouble in the future?" "What is trouble for me?" Link smiled, "At most, it will expose our strength. At that time, it will not be us who are afraid, but others. After all, everyone has read Superman's comics. Once a real Superman appears, will they be afraid?" Jessica laughed and said, "That must be very interesting." The next afternoon, Link and Frank came to the outside of the Osborn group again, waiting for Norman Osborn to come out. This guy is not a person who gets off work on time. It was more than 8 o'clock in the evening, and Norman Osborn came out this time, with only one driver driving. Driving him back to Osborn Manor, the car drove in, Link and Frank parked the car nearby, and then got out and walked over. The two observed outside. There were not too many security guards, but the security system was the most advanced at present. Link flipped in directly at the blind spot of the surveillance, and Frank followed closely. Frank followed Link's steps, and the two of them walked at different speeds. Link was comparing the moving surveillance cameras, including the hidden cameras. In this way, he came directly to the side door, which was the passage for the servants and was not locked at all. Wearing gloves, he opened the door and entered, and then went into the study. Norman Osborn was sitting in the kitchen at this time. He had not eaten dinner yet, and the cook made him a simple meal alone. He was not a picky person, because he had too little time. After Richard Parker escaped, Norman Osborn was paving the way for his son. But his son also had a genetic disease, which became a mountain weighing on his heart, making him breathless. His son could not understand him yet, and he did not want to put any pressure on his son. But what if he fell? Now he was under too much pressure. After eating a quick meal, he walked towards the study, pushed the door open, closed it casually, and turned on the light. Quote. Norman Osborn saw two people, one of whom he knew. Link is no longer an unknown person. Although it is the Jessica Charity Foundation that holds the shares of Stark Industries, how could Norman Osborn not learn about it? Stark Industries and their Osborn group are in competition, such as military orders, and there are also competitions in the fields of medicine and energy. "Mr. Osborn, don't panic," Link said with a smile. "Mr. Lin, Norman Osborn has indeed seen the wind and waves, and he is still calm." "Yes, I came here to discuss the issue of cooperation. Link said. Why not go to the company to talk? Norman Osborn asked. It's very simple, because the premise of cooperation is that I can treat your family genetic disease. Link then took out a piece of paper. These are several experimental subjects. They all have the same troubles as you, but they have been cured. You can investigate first, and the last one is my phone number. Link put a piece of paper on the desk, and Norman Osborn's pupils shrank. This sentence shocked him the most. Can it really be treated? He hurriedly picked it up and took a look. There were names and hospitals on it. Norman Osborn looked up at Link with a complicated look in his eyes. Can the disease that he was worried about really be cured? If you confirm it, then I can treat a son first, but today you need to give me a genetic sample. Link took out another blood-drawing syringe with a metal seal, which was also placed in the office on the table. So what is the collaboration about? Norman Osborn asked. It's about the Osborn Group. Richard Parker's escape and death caused his research and development achievements to disappear. Link said. The situation of the Osborn Group is very bad now, and I need it to be even worse. Quote. Allowing me to go short and buy the dip in order to gain control of the Osborn Group. Of course, I still need you to be the CEO. After that, I will hand over more technologies to the Osborn Group to develop the group. I need Osborn Group to reach the heights of Stark Industries. Norman Osborn frowned, thought about it, and then said, I can spend money for treatment, but the Osborn Group does not belong to one person. This matter is not urgent. Link smiled. As far as I know, the military will soon cancel its cooperation with you, and I estimate that you will be kicked off the board of directors. We can talk about it then. Now give me your genetic sample. This is a therapeutic injection that needs to be developed through genetic samples. After you are sure there is no problem, I can treat your son first, and then we will wait and see. Norman Osborn nodded, then picked up the sealing tube, took out the syringe and drew his own blood. He was also a technician, and drawing blood was no stranger to him. Then he sealed it again and handed it to Link. Link waved and took Frank to the door of the study. Suddenly he turned around and said, Come out in 10 minutes and don't make any noise. After saying that, Link opened the door and walked out, still taking Frank out of Osborn Manor. The two returned to the car and stared for a while. They found that Norman Osborn made no movement at all, and then drove away. In fact, Link didn't need to bring Frank with him at all, but he brought it here specially to show Norman Osborn. Link was very famous in the underground world, but he was alone. In order to prevent Norman Osborn from having anything to do with him, I brought Frank here specially. If Norman Osborn had cared to do so, it would be easy to find out some things, such as what happened to Frank when he served in the army and later in New York. This was not difficult for him, and it showed that Link was not alone. Coupled with his own fighting ability, Norman Osborn still needs to think carefully even if he wants to do something. Link didn't want to break his skin. He also counted on Norman Osborn to help him manage the Osborn Group. The reason why he wanted to get more than half of the shares was so that he could remove the group's CEO at any time. It's considered safe. Link covets the Osborn Group for the sake of social status. Of course he will not hand over the initiative. Even if he is unwilling to manage the group, the manager must be under his control. Norman Osborn was sitting in the study, looking at the list left by Link, feeling very excited that he could finally get rid of the nightmare. But when he was asked to hand over the group, he refused in his heart, but compared to life. He was weighing the pros and cons. After all, his group was also researching super soldier serum and cross-species gene transplantation technology. Thinking of this, he began to resent Richard Parker again. But Norman Osborn is really good. He did not transfer his resentment to Peter Parker and even admired the child. In fact, the super soldier serum is not difficult to copy. What is difficult is to find another Steve Rogers. Link has analyzed it before. For example, Howard Stark once copied the serum. If anyone knows the serum best, besides the inventor Dr. Abraham Erskine, it is Howard Stark. After all, he also contributed to the birth of Captain America, and he was at the scene, so they must have communicated with each other. The super soldier serum used by the Red Skull was made by the Doctor. Why did it also fail? This is a psychological problem, not a problem with the serum. There is no saint in Captain America. Even if the duck-necked slacker Dr. Erkin survives, it will be difficult for him to create another Captain America. Why did he choose Steve Rogers? It is because of his character that he has a weak body but a strong heart. This is the key. Norman Osborn doesn't understand this. He is still thinking about whether the group's super soldier serum can be used for life experiments. If he succeeds, he will naturally not need to be coerced. If he fails, he will have a way out. The key is that his son does not need to wait for death. His heart was complicated. He looked at the list in his hand and couldn't wait for dawn. He didn't sleep all night. In the morning, I specially had breakfast with my son, and then sent him to school. The Rolls-Royce I took did not drive to the school gate. This was my son's request. As soon as he arrived at the group, he couldn't wait to make a few calls and find someone to help him check the situation. It was easy to check. It was not a hidden matter. I got a reply quickly. It was true that these people all had genetic diseases. Someone had found them before and was willing to treat them for free. It's just that the other party is not a hospital or a pharmaceutical group, but an individual. They agreed to give it a try. After all, the high cost of treatment was not reimbursed even by the insurance company because it was a terminal illness. As a result, the treatment was really good. When they went back to the hospital for examination, the attending doctor was very shocked. Norman Osborn had a clue in his mind. He asked people to keep an eye on them to see if they were really healthy. Link was not in a hurry. He used the laboratory to study the genes of the Osborn family and then made injections for treatment, which were targeted at genes. There was a treatment formula for each family's genes, but there was a basic formula. Link had already perfected the formula, and all genetic diseases could be treated. This was also a foundation for the Osborn group in the future. He did not give up the laboratory and was going to continue the research. Gene therapy was based on Richard Parker's research, and he was going to do his own research and development now. The Osborn group's main business was medicine and biology, and its military industry was mainly soldier serum. Its weapons department was developing individual equipment. But the effect was not ideal. Link estimated that there would be problems soon. Although it was unclear what universe it was, Peter Parker had just started high school. According to the time calculation, what happened to the Osborn group should have happened before the Chitauri attacked. Link didn't have any mission, but Coulson still asked him to collect intelligence. Link estimated that Nick Fury's focus was on Captain America. Under normal circumstances, he should have allowed himself to check the situation and provide psychological counseling to Captain America, but he didn't. It's probably a matter of trust, and Nick Fury is probably worried that his psychological abilities are too strong. Link had nothing to do and was doing experiments silently. He developed drugs very quickly, and they were all special drugs. In addition, he is studying nanotechnology, and with constant supplements from various disciplines, his knowledge level is getting higher and higher, and Link is becoming more and more satisfied with the super brain. Thinking is too fast, the cells themselves are powerful enough, and the speed is fast enough, whether it is learning or thinking, it is fast. This makes him unfavorable in his studies. What limits him now is the basic knowledge of each subject. This is the most critical issue. If he can go to extraterrestrials to study, then he will be stronger in science. This may not be a chance. Maybe he can go to Asgard in the future. They have accumulated a lot of knowledge. It's just that Asgard seems to have grown muscles. It thinks that its troops are powerful, and its defense is almost useless. Its palace is only a shield, and it is very slow to hold up. Although the defense was strong, the internal protection was not enough, and the Dark Elves directly broke through. Find a chance to go there. In Norman Osborn's expectation, representatives from the military finally came and first saw the test of the flying skateboard. General SOCOM, who led the team, was not very interested in it. Then he asked about the progress of the super soldier serum. During the experiment, the mice went berserk. Norman Osborn tried his best to explain, but General SOCOM did not support these studies at all. What he cares about is the space project. If the Osborn group can't come up with something better today, then the military's RU-00260 funding will be cut off. This is not only a matter of money, but also a major event that will affect the market value of the Osborn group. Norman Osborn tried his best to fight for it, but it had no effect at all. Link had told him before, and now it was confirmed that the military was now ready to invest in the Exploration Aerospace Company. The matter then fermented, and all major media were reporting on it. Norman Osborn read the contents in the newspaper, and there was no fluctuation in his heart. Will the board kick themselves out? In fact, it is no longer important. The development of the super soldier serum was not successful and had to go back to the formula stage and start over. There was no point in researching it anymore. There is no cure for his disease, so his last hope lies with Link. He took the initiative to call Link. Mr. Lin, I wonder if you have time to accept my invitation to have dinner together tonight. Of course, I have been waiting for Mr. Osborn's invitation. Link smiled when he received the call. I will bring my girlfriend to attend. In the evening, Link and Jessica dressed up to attend Norman Osborn's invitation. They kept a low profile and tried to avoid reporters. Welcome. Norman Osborn took the initiative, and then Link introduced him and Jessica, and the three of them sat down. Link took out a sealed tube, handed it to Norman Osborn, and said, "This is to treat the noble master. Just put it on when you go back. A low fever will appear. This process will last for 24 hours and requires simple physical cooling." "Thank you." Norman Osborn took it, looked at the metal seal, but did not open it, and then said, "The military's investment has been withdrawn, and they are not interested in the Osborn Group's research. I heard that there are a lot of reports in the media now, and they are indeed well informed." Link smiled. "So, what are Mr. Osborn's plans for the future?" "Call me Norman." Norman said, "I believe we will cooperate happily in the future." "Of course, Norman, you can call me Lin." Link understood that the other party agreed. "Lin, what are your plans for the Osborn Group in the future?" Norman asked. Link began to explain his plan. First of all, the shares. "We have to get the shares back. Of course, I will give you a batch of medicines later, including the formula of gene therapy injections, as well as a batch of special drugs. I will then bring in Stark Industries, whose weapons division is closed, and I hope to convince them to take a stake in the Osborn Corporation. Of course, if it doesn't work then we can buy it. Medicine and weapons will become the two pillar industries of the Osborn Group, and then some departments, such as the Energy Department, will be sold directly. Because Tony Stark will develop new energy sources next, and we can't compete in this area." Norman Osborn nodded slightly. "This idea is good." Link continued. "I believe you have heard of the subsequent investment in the United Construction Company. By combining Rand Group and Stark Industries, our strength will be even stronger. Especially for the stock price, it's not a big problem if the market value exceeds 200 billion. Norman Osborn laughed and said, "Lin, you should take control of the Osborn Group." "No, I don't like to do too many things. What I care about is the status that the Osborn Group brings me." Link said, "I have other things to do, and I need to be like Tony Stark, status. This makes it easier for me to do things." Norman Osborn was stunned. He had never thought of this. Link smiled and said, "Money is not important to me. I am not a capitalist. I don't need to pursue profits endlessly. This is not necessary. As long as there is enough money, I don't have any pursuit in this regard, so you can easily control the group and don't need to worry about being responsible to the board of directors." Norman Osborn nodded and said, "Okay, it seems that I have to continue to work hard." After a dinner, the two sides went their separate ways, trying to conceal their tracks, and also talked about the follow-up plans during the period. It is not difficult to suppress the stock price of the Oz Group, because many secrets are in the hands of Norman Osborn, so it is not difficult for him. Especially at this time. Back home, Norman Osborn called his son, then took out some medical supplies and gave him an injection. "Dad, what is this?" Harry Osborn asked after the injection. "This is medicine." Norman Osborn sighed, and then talked about the family's genetic disease. "Child, there is finally a medicine to treat it, and I dare to tell you now." Norman Osborn told his son about the genetic disease in the Osborn family, and that no one in the Osborn family would live long. He founded the Osborn Group to focus on the development of biology, medicine, etc., just to treat his family's diseases. This was a big stone weighing on his heart. And today there is finally a drug that can treat it. I asked for leave for you. After you take the injection, you will have a low-grade fever for 24 hours. That is the result of genetic modification. There is no need to worry. Norman Osborn looked kindly and touched his son's head. No one in the Osborn family will die from genetic diseases anymore. Dad, Harry Osborn was really startled. Have you used it? Yes, kid, I did. Norman Osborn would not tell his son about the trouble. Okay, go to bed early, don't think too much, everything will pass. Get some sleep and you will feel much better. If you feel comfortable, call the housekeeper and use physical means to cool down. No need to take medicine. I know, Dad. Harry Osborn went back to his room. What he just heard had a great impact on him, but he soon fell asleep, his body feeling slightly warm. Norman Osborn already knew it in detail. This is true for everyone who has used injections. So far, there has been no problem. Moreover, he also spent money to ask the hospital to invite these people back for follow-up consultations and conduct comprehensive physical and genetic examinations. Otherwise, how could he dare to give it to his son himself? Of course, he could also use it for himself, but he didn't dare to gamble. What if something unexpected happened? After all, it is not easy to suppress the Osborn Group's stock price. He and Link also discussed it for a long time today. Strictly speaking, this is a violation of securities trading regulations and is an internal operation. It's just that Norman Osborn acted at his own expense, harming his own interests in favor of Link. Jessica and Link return home, and McCall and Frank leave. After Jessica went upstairs, she asked, "Will Osborn cooperate with you?" Of course, although he will also suffer losses, he will earn more if the stock price appreciates in the future. Link said, "You know I have been studying recently, and I also rented a laboratory at the university. Quote, I have researched a lot of special medicines. Once they are launched, they will be very popular. You know that American medicines are very deceptive. And my medicines are the most effective. Of course, this will make doctors make a lot less money, but it doesn't matter. Exporting them can also make money, and it's better for patients. Link doesn't want to help the people here, and it's not wise to fight the entire medical system. If you don't open it, I'll export it, and it won't be at a high price. After all, everyone is likely to get sick, and the pharmaceutical business will never have to worry about selling. I just need to research and develop more. Anyway, the super brain is so easy to use now, and Link doesn't mind creating another persona for himself. However, this matter is kept secret for the time being. He only needs social status and does not need the name of a genius for the time being. When necessary, he can let Norman Osborn be exposed. Jessica asked, "Is the medical problem a big one?" Link rolled his eyes and said, "Isn't it difficult? Medical insurance interferes with patients' treatment plans. Doctors prescribe medicine not based on the condition, but based on the benefits given by medical representatives. There are more problems inside that we don't understand." Jessica didn't know any of this. She used to be an ordinary girl except for her strength. Norman Osborn then took action, and now there were some voices in the board of directors. He didn't care about it at all, and did not win over shareholders. Instead, he secretly handed some information to Frank. Frank became the liaison between Link and Osborn, and Link secretly gave this information to the media. Then, negative news about the Osborn Group began to leak out. The first was Richard Parker's escape. He invested a lot of research and development funds and saw success, but the developer ran away with the information. While taking a plane, he also encountered a plane crash. It was impossible to recover the information, and the Osborn Group's investment was in vain. Secondly, the military's divestment caused the Osborn Group to lose its military research and development funding. Finally, it was revealed that Norman Osborn had a physical problem and that the Osborn family had a genetic disease inherited. These three are big news, and then there are some gossips. The electric eel power generation developed by the Osborn Group's energy department will be defeated by Stark Industries' electromagnetic arc reactor. The scandal among the internal directors was also published in the gossip newspapers. For a time, Osborn Group's stock price plummeted, and the board of directors was immediately convened. Norman Osborn was furious, thinking that someone had betrayed the group's secrets. After all, he had suffered huge losses and others would not suspect him. However, his outburst immediately caused panic within the board of directors, and everyone began to distrust each other, instantly dividing the board of directors. Link has long used financial leverage to enter the market and short the Osborn Group. This time he will make more money because the rhythm is in his hands. Of course, he came to eat the biggest piece of cake. He made billions of dollars by shorting Hammer Industries before, but now he has more capital, so he is shorting even more. The financial institutions that held shares in Osborne Group suffered heavy losses, and what they would get back later would be a bunch of cheap stocks, while Link made a lot of money. There is still follow-up news. The biggest problem of Osborne Group is that there is no good news. The project they invested the most in has failed completely. Now the group has no valuable good news. This hit their weak spot. Suddenly, Osborne Group had strength and fell directly. As the stock price plummeted, shareholders directly sold their stocks. Some shareholders were also shaken, and even some financial institutions negotiated directly with Link, hoping that he would directly purchase these stocks. Link was not a sucker, and ignored it at all. Norman Osborne would not rescue the market, and he would not purchase it now. So the two of them joined forces and watched the stock fall all the way to $3 per share, which was almost a cabbage price. Only then did Link close his position, and then return the stock, including interest, and then sent representatives to discuss the issue of purchasing stocks. He did not purchase immediately, but sent people to negotiate separately. Matthew Murdoch was responsible for the legal issues of the transaction, and people from Jessica Charity Foundation were responsible for the purchase. More than a month later, just when people thought that the Osborne Group was going to go bankrupt, the Jessica Charitable Foundation suddenly announced that it had completed its control of the Osborne Group, with a shareholding of more than 67%. More than 5% needs to be reported, so Link made the acquisition on the same day and took full control of the Osborne Group. Of course, he will not hold these shares in his own hands, but will bring in some beneficial collaborators, such as Stark Industries. He hasn't discussed this matter yet, but he thinks it won't be a big problem, but it can't be done now, because various drugs still need to undergo biological and human experiments. This needs to be reported to the Drug Control Agency, and then a license can be obtained before they can be sold. Jessica, as the person in charge of the foundation, held a press conference. This kind of press conference has been held several times, so Jessica is not nervous, and she is now considered a celebrity in the United States. As a woman, she controls a charitable foundation with tens of billions of assets. 10% of Stark Industries shares alone are worth more than $20 billion. The new energy project has not yet been fully implemented and is waiting for the completion of the Stark building renovation. In addition, 3 more buildings are included in the plan, and Stark Industries' stock price will inevitably soar again. Then there is the 8% stake in United Construction, which is also worth billions of dollars. The foundation also has a large amount of funds. This aspect has not been announced, but this acquisition can also bring out some strength. Ems Jones, what is the purpose of this acquisition by the foundation? A reporter asked. The foundation has always been committed to legal aid charity, and now we will get involved in medical charity. Jessica said. Osborne Group has developed in biology and medical care. Although it is encountering difficulties now, its foundation remains. Quote, moreover, our foundation has been well prepared and has developed more than a dozen specific drugs. Although it has not been reported yet, we will conduct biological testing and clinical human testing through the Osborne Group's channels. Osborne Group has sufficient capabilities in these aspects and can complete the collection of data as soon as possible. Once approved, it will all be put on the market. Another reporter asked, excuse me, are you confident in solving the internal problems of the Osborne Group? Of course, Mr. Lin, as the owner of a charitable foundation, has been investing a lot of money, and the research and development of drugs has already started. Jessica said, we will not acquire shares of Osborne Group without sufficient certainty. Quote, after the foundation takes over, it will increase its charitable investment, especially in the medical field. Someone immediately asked, excuse me, is this acquisition planned? Mr. Lin is good at investing. He made the decision to acquire shares of Stark Industries before and now Osborne Group. Jessica explained, his vision has always been precise and in line with the development of the foundation. Quote, when we first started to provide legal assistance, we acquired like-minded law firms. Subsequent investments were made in the United Construction Company that developed West Midtown, which are in line with Mr. Lin's investment and philanthropic philosophy. It's the same now. With sufficient funds, Mr. Lin has invested in drug research and development. Quote. The press conference went very smoothly, because Link and Jessica were lovers, there was no gossip about either party, and they did not appear in the camera much. They seem a bit mysterious, and everyone is curious about this mysterious billionaire. Later questions about her private life were ignored. Jessica finally announced that Norman Osborn would continue to be the CEO of the group, and Link would become the chairman. The matter has come to an end for the time being. Osborn's stock price has only increased slightly today. It has not risen, but it will no longer continue to fall. At this time, Norman Osborn and Link were still acquiring some scattered shares. The two of them were preparing to fully acquire all the shares, and of course they would not delist. The shares on the market had already been purchased by them, and Link then took Jessica to the Osborn group. There were only two people on the board, Link and Osborn. Link was sitting in the main seat, and he kicked his feet and the chair spun around. It's an interesting position, but I don't like it. Norman, I'll leave the group to you. Link looked at the other person and said. Of course, I will be responsible for managing it, then. Norman Osborn didn't finish his sentence, but the meaning was obvious. Link opened the briefcase he brought, took out an envelope, handed it directly to the other party, and then took out everything in the briefcase. These are information on specific drugs. You can just ask people to conduct biological experiments, then report them to the regulatory committee, and finally conduct human experiments. Link said, I believe you know this process. And as each of the specific drugs passes testing and is launched, the stock price will surely rise as the news is released. At the same time, get rid of other departments and only keep the pharmaceutical-related ones. When the stock price rises, I will talk to Stark Industries. Norman Osborn said. So, what about the flying skateboard and combat equipment we developed? Quote. Link touched his chin, this seemed to suit him very well. Keep it and prepare another test site. When the time comes, I will do the test myself. Ah, Norman Osborn was stunned and asked, is this appropriate? My title is the God of Death. Link smiled, this thing may be suitable for my suit and flying tool, so I want to try it myself. Of course, the suit may not be suitable, but it can be modified later. The key is the flying skateboard. If it can be replaced with Tony's energy, it will be amazing. Norman Osborn's eyes lit up, but then he understood that Link could get this energy through personal connections and use it on his flying skateboard, but it would not be sold to the Osborn Group as a commodity. Okay, I will arrange it as soon as possible. If you need to change it, you can bring it up and I will ask someone to modify it for you at that time. Norman Osborn didn't care about it. Link said, don't promote these things for the time being. Wait and see if you can acquire the weapons department of Stark Industries, especially the talents. Okay, you have the final say now. Norman Osborn nodded. No, you have the final say. We are leaving, and this place is handed over to you. Take a day off first and cure your illness. Your condition should be getting worse. After Link finished speaking, he left with Jessica. And Norman Osborn excitedly opened the sealed tube, looked at the injection inside, and sealed it again. He took the information to the head of the medical department and at the same time increased the security level. The incident involving Richard Parker must not happen again. Everyone is not stupid. Norman Osborn is still the CEO. Many people who sold their shares before immediately realized that this was premeditated. Let's not talk about the several major events that caused the Osborn Group's stock price to plummet. Some dirty things within the group were actually announced by someone. It must be the information provided by the board of directors. And now it seems that it is Norman Osborn who is still very angry. Of course, the biggest loss is Norman Osborn. Everyone did not doubt him at the beginning. Even now, I can't figure it out. Why should he bear such a big loss? Just for a dozen special medicines that have not been tested. This is unrealistic, this is very uncapitalist. The shareholders who sold their shares couldn't figure it out, but it didn't matter if they couldn't figure it out. They believed that the Osborn Group was cheated. There was an inside story and it was malicious short selling. But there was a problem. They had no evidence, so even if they sued, they couldn't win. Some people were not convinced and wanted to do something, but Norman Osborn was not a good man or a woman, and he was not easy to mess with. Then, why not target Link? After all, this guy rose too fast and had no background, so he investigated and was shocked to find that he was a more difficult guy to provoke. Neither Link nor Norman Osborn knew that they had survived a small crisis, and the transition of the Osborn group was very smooth. The group was cut into some parts. The original diversified business model only retained the biological, pharmaceutical, and weapons research and development departments. Then, the biological experiments of special medicines were carried out with all efforts. The large-scale experiments were carried out and the data obtained were very gratifying. I believe that it will soon be reported to the regulatory committee and apply for human experiments. At this time, Link came to the test site of the Osborn group. A flying skateboard was prepared for him, and Norman Osborn introduced it to him. This flying skateboard is equipped with 2 machine guns and 2 missiles, with spikes that can be ejected. Link thinks these are unnecessary. After all, the flying skateboard is so big, and its main function should be flying. Of course, it is also good to bring a few small missiles, or replace them with micro-missiles. For example, machine guns and spikes are completely unnecessary and do not fit his combat positioning. He only needs to move and fly. Norman, Stark Industries is building 3 new buildings, using the new energy invented by Stark. I think we should buy one, Link said. Norman Osborn was stunned and asked, is it the new headquarters of the group? Yes, it is in Hell's Kitchen. Link said, the progress is good. It is estimated that it will be put into use in May next year. Then we will sell the current building. Because of the geographical location, it is estimated that a lot of money can be saved. Lynn, this is not a matter of money, Norman Osborn reminded. Of course I know, but my idea is this. I plan to build a supercomputer and use artificial intelligence. Link said, I plan to build the top floor as my residence and concentrate the RU-00260 department here. And arrange a small automatic factory. These are all things I use. Of course, you will manage it. Those drugs are all developed by me. Link suddenly lowered his voice and said in the other party's ear. Norman Osborn was stunned, then looked at Link in surprise and asked, really? Do you need to test me? Link smiled, in the future, whether it is medicine or weapons, I need to develop them, but this matter must be kept secret for the time being, understand? Now I need the Osborn group to become stronger. As the CEO, what you actually need to do is to manage it well. By then, artificial intelligence will supervise the entire building, and Richard Parker will never happen again. His identity must be extraordinary. I guess he is from the CIA, so we still have to be on guard. Norman Osborn nodded slightly and said, I also have some doubts. Only after the CIA succeeds will they run away. They are stronger abroad. These greedy guys. Indeed greedy. Link also nodded. In addition, the original building was built too early. Many technologies are not used. If it is modified, it will also cost a lot. Quote, it is better to sell it directly. Of course, if you want to keep it, you can. No need. Norman Osborn shook his head, it is also good to have a better one. If you are really a genius, then I am willing to rebuild a building for the genius. We are a technology group, but my level is limited. Now I am unable to do it. In the future, I will not care about the research and development, and I will hand it over to you directly. Link smiled. This Norman Osborn is really decisive enough, so he said, don't worry, I said that I will make your shares more valuable. After the stock price goes up, we will immediately select suitable shareholders. Of course, Norman Osborn is now more relaxed and very surprised. The special medicine was actually researched by Link, which really shocked him. However, this matter still needs to be kept confidential. He is not going to tell others. The key is to observe whether it is true. Because it is too unbelievable, he has investigated Link. This person is studying psychology and has a title in the underground world. Of course, after all, this person is a policeman. Link didn't know what Norman Osborn was thinking. He got on the skateboard and flew up, from low altitude to high altitude, and soon mastered the flying skateboard. However, Link was not satisfied. This thing was not flexible enough. The user needed to maintain a strange posture, a bit like a flying crab. Link was going to modify it himself to adapt it to his own combat needs. After all, his current performance was like a sharpshooter. Of course, he could fight against Black Widow. The combat power he showed was so much. He added a flying skateboard to increase his flying ability. After the battle suit was built, he could also throw it directly to the Osborn group. After all, this is a technology group. Link was just covering himself. The more cover, the safer his and Jessica's secrets. Now there is no information about Asgard. From Thor's return to Asgard to Loki's attack with the Chitauri, it should be about 2 years. Time is still quite tight. Next, he needs to complete the creation of artificial intelligence, battle suits, and flying skateboards. Time is a bit tight. After all, the key is nanotechnology. What if skateboards were also nanotechnology? The super brain is not very good. Once the thoughts spread out, they really can't stop. He even thought that flying may not require a skateboard. Maybe the Falcon's flying equipment is more suitable. Not necessarily. Link doesn't like that pair of wings. Okay, this skateboard has many shortcomings. I will improve it, but I need a studio. Link said. I will talk to Stark Industries. Their building in Hell's Kitchen is the fastest. It's not a problem to buy it directly. Okay, I will keep an eye on the medicine. Norman Osborn and Link divided the work. Link contacted Pepper Potts, and the two met in New York at the United Construction Company. Pepper, long time no see. Link and the other party hugged and kissed each other and then separated. You were really surprising recently. You actually acquired the Osborn Group. Pepper said. I am good at this. I shorted the Hammer Group before, but they have the military behind them and survived. I can only find a new target. What Link said was of course not true. He did not want to take over the Hammer Group because the group did not have much background. If it weren't for the conflict of interest with the military, it would have been torn apart long ago, and Link's words were just an excuse. He was a prophet, and Norman Osborn was willing to cooperate, so he would naturally not let the Osborn Group go. Pepper admired Link very much. After all, Link was indeed capable, which was beneficial to Tony Stark. What did you come to me for today? Pepper asked. I hope to buy the one in Hell's Kitchen among several buildings of Stark Industries and make some modifications to its original design. Link said, I will use this building as the headquarters of the Osborn Group. After the stock price goes up, I also hope to get the weapons department of Stark Industries. After listening, Pepper did not agree immediately, but thought about it. First of all, the building, there is no problem with this. The 4 buildings are mainly for the use of new energy. The effect of selling and renting is the same. If the Osborn Group buys one, then the value of the subsequent buildings will inevitably increase. Secondly, the weapons department, which has been closed, but has not been dealt with yet. At the same time, the focus of Stark Industries has shifted to New York. It is a problem to deal with it now, and there are still a large number of employees, which is also a headache for her. The building can be sold to you. Pepper then said with a smile, what about the weapons department? My idea is that after the special medicine is launched, the stock price will inevitably increase, and Stark Industries will invest in the weapons department. Link said, you can get 15 to 20% of the shares. Pepper nodded and said, this is a good idea, but there is a problem now, that is, whether Tony will agree. Link was stunned and asked, now you are the CEO. Yes, but I respect Tony. I need to ask him what he thinks. After all, he closed the weapons department. If the weapons department invests in the Osborn Group, does this go against his wishes? Link understood what Pepper meant, and she agreed. However, Stark's ideas must also be respected. Link nodded and said, of course, you can ask him. I'll ask now. Pepper took out the phone and called Tony Stark. After the call was connected, Pepper told the story again, and then the other end of the phone was silent, but it didn't last long. Soon Tony Stark made a decision and he agreed. After Pepper hung up the phone, he smiled and said, Tony agreed. He thinks you are not a person who abuses weapons. After all, weapons still need to be produced by someone. Link nodded slightly and said in agreement, it seems that he has figured it out. After all, weapons will not disappear. They have existed since the birth of mankind. Then I wish us a happy cooperation. Happy cooperation. Pepper shook hands with Link, and then the two attended the meeting of the United Construction Company. The reason for the meeting here is that the United Construction Company also has a meeting, which was also convened by Link. The purpose is to invest in the United Construction Company and invest in the name of the Osborne Group. Wilson Fisk was very happy, although Link was the major shareholder of the Osborne Group, and the current stock price of the Osborne Group was extremely low. However, it was established not a short time ago, and it was also very powerful before. Now that Link has taken over, I believe that the situation will be reversed soon. Others don't believe it, but Fisk believes it. However, the funds of the Osborne Group are limited now, and it can only purchase 5% of the shares. In this way, the shares held by the Jessica Charity Foundation together only account for 13%. Fisk does not plan to sell the shares again, but plans to develop for a period of time, and its stock price will still rise, and then he will look for a group of powerful partners. The current situation is the best for him, making money and increasing allies. The only pity is that he is temporarily unable to invest in other projects. Link then went to see the drawings of the building. The appearance is similar to that of the Stark building. Link is not going to change it because he likes the rooftop and the flying platform the most. The font of Stark will be changed to Osborne, which needs to be redesigned. At the same time, Link needs a small automatic factory, from the top floor down, occupying the middle position, which he will discuss directly with Stark. At the same time, a supercomputer will be placed in the building. Link plans to put it underground for cooling and security. Like holographic projection, intelligent control, etc., the entire building will have a layer of intelligent security system. Of course, there will not be only one security system. Link does not want S.H.I.E.L.D. to enter and exit his territory at will. The Osborne Group has no money for the time being, so Link privately funded the purchase and it exists as the headquarters of the Osborne Group. The Osborne Group will give him rent and wait until the funds are relieved before purchasing, otherwise it will have to raise funds. Norman Osborne does not have much money, which will dilute his shares. Then the building was divided into two parts, the upper part and the lower part, which were divided from the middle. The upper part was all laboratories, and the lower part was all administrative areas. This time, the security of the laboratory was strengthened, which was also agreed by Norman Osborne. He had suffered a great loss. This time, all the experimental departments were placed on the upper part to directly strengthen the security force. Of course, this is also conducive to his management of the Osborne Group without being affected by Link, the chairman. For the time being, there are only two of them on the board of directors, so some things can be done with a phone call, but what if there are more directors in the future? The building is not yet completed, and the Osborne Group cannot move now. Link does not have his own laboratory and automatic factory, so he has nothing to do now. He is quiet, but Norman Osborne is busy. He only rested for one day, and then began to focus on the testing of special drugs, and actively contacted the regulatory committee. The scale of the biological experiment is not small, because his genetic disease was cured by the injection developed by Link, and he trusts Link very much, so he directly conducts large-scale experiments. In exchange for time, after reaching the number of tests, the sorted data was submitted. In addition, he released the test data and results to the media, which was very successful. Some media even suspected that the Osborne Group was falsifying, but Norman Osborne has completed the patent application for special drugs and announced that it welcomes third-party institutions to participate in the test. The Osborne Group can provide samples. Now the media has nothing to say. People don't care about the testing of third-party institutions at all. It would be better if they are willing to join. On the regulatory side, because of Norman Osborne's lobbying, the approval speed is very fast. Lobbying is a unique way in the Western world. It is a benefit to the people in the regulatory committee to pay money and work hard, so it is naturally green light all the way. This is a very common phenomenon. The Osborne Group has started human experiments. This time, the experiment was conducted in a hospital in Hell's Kitchen, where many poor people cannot afford to see a doctor and are willing to receive free treatment. The law firm of Jessica Charity Foundation, as a legal guarantee for human experiments, will provide free legal assistance to patients participating in the experiment. In addition, Norman Osborne invited the media to come over. Several media can conduct follow-up interviews, filming, and special reports. After all, it is quite rare to conduct human tests on more than a dozen special drugs at the same time. At the same time, the targeted diseases are still headaches in medicine. Now there are special drugs. According to the different degrees of the disease, different courses of treatment can be used to cure it. This is good news for many patients, so the program and reports are also very popular. Many patients or their families, as well as people who care about medical care and worry about their own illness or fixed audience groups. The daily program is not long. After all, treatment requires a process. As long as they see the patients recovering little by little, it gives them enough confidence. There are more than a dozen special medicines, each of which requires a lot of patients, and 3 consecutive tests are required, which means the number is even greater, but there are also many patients. All of them are poor. After identity and background checks, there is a contract drafted by Matthew Murdoch to ensure the interests of the patients. Then, under the witness of the media, all the patients in the first phase signed the contract. Fortunately, the hospital has expanded, otherwise it really can't accommodate so many people. The same illness is concentrated together, and all need a comprehensive examination to prevent other diseases. All people's medical records need to be written clearly. After all, some people do not have a single disease, and a comprehensive treatment plan needs to be considered. Such a comprehensive preparation makes the audience very excited, because such a strict arrangement, even with media supervision, can see the patient's condition every day, which cannot be faked. It proves that the Osborne Group is confident in human experiments. Under this circumstance, the first phase of the experiment is launched. Link also makes an appointment with Jessica every day to watch the show to understand the progress of the first phase of the experiment. "My dear, your medicine is very effective," Jessica said. "For the first phase of patients, we specially selected patients with different degrees of illness, and the mildest ones have shown significant improvement. After the first course of treatment, there is hope that they will recover." Jessica is in charge of the foundation, and she knows the treatment process in detail. She really likes to get to the bottom of things. Link smiled. He developed the medicine himself, so he naturally knew the efficacy of the medicine. After the first batch recovers, let them continue to be observed in the hospital for at least 3 weeks. This is written in the contract. Let Matthew remind these people not to run away directly when they think they are well. This is very important for the Osborne Group. These people are poor and have no culture. Once they are cured, all kinds of situations will occur. Let Fisk increase the security level and notify the media to report this situation. Jessica was stunned at first, and then she understood that these people had no medical insurance, and the diseases they had were not easy to treat, so they could only rely on drugs to maintain. Now that they have been cured, they might just run away. Many of them have to work, or even commit crimes. Who will be responsible if something goes wrong? I understand. I will remind them. Don't you want to go and see? Jessica asked. After all, you are the boss of the foundation. No, I am not suitable for frequent appearances. For the time being, I need some mystery. Link said. You know, I am an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Although there are not many tasks now, it is not good to be exposed too much. There are no reports and photos of me outside for the time being, so it is still secret now. When he becomes an Avenger in the future, his exposure rate will definitely increase greatly. However, by then, the new headquarters of the Osborne Group will be completed, and he can live and work there. This idea is really good. He can bask in the sun at a higher position, live and work together, and do whatever he wants. In addition, he can build some equipment he wants, especially the future nano-combat suits can be completed in automatic factories. Link is not idle now. He has been thinking about the improvement of the flying skateboard. He has thought a lot about the design, but none of them are ideal. Jessica looked at Link and finished speaking. Suddenly, she didn't know what she was thinking. She immediately hugged his head and kissed him on the cheek. "My dear, what are you thinking about?" Jessica asked. "Oh, I'm thinking about the design of the flying skateboard. I don't have any clues. If it's too big, it's not good. It doesn't fit my position." Link said, "I'm not the main force." Jessica didn't understand what the main force was. She said, "If there are really aliens, how do aliens design it?" Link had a flash of inspiration, and then laughed. "Dear, you are still smart. Why didn't I think of it?" Huh. Jessica was stunned, and then saw Link get up, pick up the laptop and run to the study. Jessica rolled her eyes. Her boyfriend began to develop into a scientist and started a crazy working mode. And Link did think of an alien spaceship. The shape of the Predator's fighter is very similar to a skateboard. The special layout of its wings makes it extremely flexible. Link is still not sure what the Predator fighter is called. Its main wing extends to both sides, and then each of them is divided into 3 small wings. There are 2 jets under the main wing, a propeller behind it, and jets on the small wings. So many power jets make it very flexible. Link can completely manufacture the flying skateboard in this way. Of course, because there is no joystick, artificial intelligence is needed for flight assistance. This is not bad. It can be regarded as a reference for the construction of future spacecraft. The overall appearance of this Predator fighter is actually more like a swallow. So it is reasonable to build a flying skateboard based on the appearance of a swallow. Link quickly invested in research and development. Jessica went to remind Norman Osborn and Wilson Fisk the next day, asking them to pay attention to those who have been cured and not let them leave directly. It must go through an observation period, and it is necessary to come back for regular checkups. Of course, the checkup is estimated to be much more difficult. They may get sick again in the future and come back to you. However, everyone took it seriously, especially Matthew Murdoch. Although he sympathized with these poor people, the contract had been signed. Once these people ran away, it would be a violation of the contract. Let alone Norman Osborn, Wilson Fisk alone is not a good person. If he is really angry, people will be gone at that time. This guy will definitely kill people. Therefore, Matthew Murdoch began to go to the hospital constantly, asking about the treatment procedures, and constantly reiterating the legal responsibilities of both parties. In this case, the first phase of treatment ended, and with observation, the cured patients passed the observation period and gradually began to be discharged from the hospital. The audience who has been following the program are full of expectations for the special medicine, and there are even many voices calling for it to be listed immediately, and the stock price of Osborn Group began to rise continuously. Many stockholders are looking for stocks, but there are no stocks on the stock market for the time being. Link and Norman Osborn have acquired a lot before, and they can't keep holding on. After all, there are requirements for circulating stocks. The situation of Osborn Group almost went bankrupt before. Now they can wait for a while, but the time cannot be long. Link decided to release 10 million shares into the stock market first, but not all at once, but gradually increase the price. If he released all at once, he would lose money, so he needed to release them slowly, so that the circulating shares would slowly flow back into the stock market. The second phase began with the same process, and treatment began after the case was perfected. At the same time, individual patients in the first phase returned to the hospital for regular checkups. In this case, by the end of the third phase, it was the end of 2010, and Link had perfected the design of the flying skateboard. It snowed heavily in New York, and the stock price of Osborn Group exceeded the 100 billion mark. More than a dozen special medicines began to be produced and orders were accepted. They were not mainly promoted in the United States, but abroad. Especially in the eastern countries, they were exported at low prices, and even if the tax was increased, the price was not expensive, and Link actively promoted it to enter the medical insurance system. The price could be even cheaper, and Link was selling at a low profit, and the acquired building had been built, so Link and Norman Osborn decided to move immediately. At the same time, the original Osborn Group building was sold, and the funds from the sale were used to repay Link. The top floor of the new building is not completely open like Tony Stark's. The balcony outside is the same as the helipad, but the interior is in a different style. The living room, kitchen, and dining room are completely open, but there are home functions such as study, bedroom, guest room, toilet, and bathroom. The next floor is the automatic factory, which is completely closed. There is only one staircase as the entrance. You need to go down from the top floor to enter. All elevators skip this floor. Link does not need to build an Iron Man armor. He only needs to build a flying skateboard and a battle suit. He has been designing it during this period. The flying skateboard is going very smoothly. He even got a cold nuclear fusion reactor made of new elements provided by Tony Stark. In addition, Link has also completed the design of nanotechnology, and Link suddenly realized that he has nanotechnology, so why does he still need to wear a tight battle suit? He does not fight with fists, but with weapons, guns and flying knives. In this way, there is no need to stick to Superman's dress. New inspiration came, but Link still completed the relocation of the group headquarters first. The entire upper part was a laboratory, and Link was responsible for this aspect. Link began to inspect all research projects. He quickly selected the projects that had a chance of success, and then formed research and development teams one by one and assigned laboratories. If there was no hope at all, or the research and development direction was wrong, it would be directly cancelled, and then he would assign the tasks. Of course, this was done in secret, with Norman Osborn in the middle, so why didn't Link show up himself, or do his own research? On the one hand, it was for confidentiality. Link didn't want to expose himself too early. After all, this matter sounded reliable, and it was easy for people to suspect something. On the other hand, the Osborn Group is now in the limelight. With the sales of drugs and more cured patients, the stock price of the Osborn Group began to continue to rise, reaching $200 billion directly, which is not the highest market value of the pharmaceutical group. However, this share is already very good, and then Link immediately contacted Pepper Potts, and the weapons department of the Stark Group was merged into the Osborn Group, and Stark Industries became a shareholder. However, this weapons department only includes production plants and research and development laboratories, and does not include weapons developed by Stark Industries in the past. The production rights of these weapons are in the hands of the military, otherwise it would not be this price. Stark Industries holds 20% of the shares of Osborn Group, which is worth $40 billion. Link's share has been reduced to 52%, Norman Osborn holds 20%, and the remaining 8% flows into the stock market as circulating shares. This is the temporary equity structure. If shareholders are added later, they will have to be discussed at that time, and Link will not reduce his shares again. The Weapons Research and Development Department has been reduced at this time because Tony Stark closed it, so a large number of researchers have been lost, but the laboratories and equipment are still there. The production department is temporarily intact. Norman Osborn went out to lobby the military and got some production shares. The military also hopes to continue to maintain these weapons production factories. After all, these are top-level equipment and workers. After Link dealt with these things, he finally started the final improvement. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.